Welcome to the Therapeutic Food Solutions podcast. I'm your host, Mary Mitchell. I'm an integrative nutrition health coach, therapeutic diet expert, and founder of The Road to Living Whole. There are many different diets out there. It's hard to know which one is right for you with your chronic illness and autoimmune disease. In this podcast, I'm going to share with you the foundational pieces every single therapeutic diet out there shares, and also how to use the best one for your particular diagnosis. If you've been looking for a meal planning partner, help navigating the complicated healthcare system, and want to feel better quickly, I'm your girl. Grab your kombucha and notebook. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I have an incredible guest for you today, and this is a topic that is, it's heavy in the fact that it's complex. So Dr. Jeffrey Burke is a respected leader in the natural products industry with over 40 years of experience spanning management, product formulation, research and development. And he lectures all over the country 3 weeks a year. He was a radio persona talking about health for 45 years, and now he has a podcast, and he is in it, and he is a wealth of knowledge in the, I guess I'm going to call it the alternative medicine world, the herbal world, all the things that you're asking questions on, the CMOS and the collagen and the turmeric and all the herbs and all those things. And he is in it. He has helped launch product lines and all of this. And he has some really helpful information for you today, but he also has a really interesting story. So I summarized it, but I want him to dive into it because it's fascinating. So Dr. Jeffrey Burke, I'm going to just call you Jeffrey from here on out. Thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure, my honor to be here today. Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun. It's been a great ride. You know, when I first started, I was barely 20, and I started in Los Angeles with Dr. Earl Mindell, and who wrote the Vitamin Bible, who was it in like 1979, 1980, and ended up running his company as a very, very young 20-year-old. He had 176 stores. I had no idea what I was doing. But I come from a family where my grandmother was an herbalist. So, I mean, I had my feet kind of wet in the field about drinking dandelion tea. I think she was one of the first people I know to have a pot on her stove with bone broth. I think that pot was on the stove for like 30 years. I think she kept adding chicken and onions and garlic to it and just kept serving out of the same pot. But it was the place to go. And I really loved being able to be on this side of the fence. I had everything planned in mind to go to med school. And I just decided that this is the way I want to go. I come from a family where there's a lot of medical people in my family. And, I started thinking about all the hundreds of years where we were able to fix things with just using what came from the earth. And that's where my passion went. And, I've been very blessed. Been in my field 46 years, 42 years I was on the air. I hosted one of the largest syndicated radio shows for a very long time. I launched hundreds and hundreds of lines of the things you see in health food stores every day, and worked with these absolutely amazing people, and all the chemists and the biochemists and the educators and the raw product people. And, it's been just so much fun. But radio changed. Radio is not the same as it used to be because we do a lot of things today on our time. And podcast, of course, was the way to go. So after 6 months and going through massive microphone withdrawal, I decided to start a podcast. And it's funny because now I'm interviewing some of the people I interviewed 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago to see if their philosophies are the same or if they've changed. And it's amazing how many people have a different way of thinking of things today because our industry is not small. It's quite large. And I think it's really expanded because of necessity and because people are looking for answers. And you just have to know where to get the answers, but you also need to take the initiative to ask the questions.
Yeah. The people listening to this podcast are practitioners, and they're also people just struggling with chronic illness. And what I find as a health coach is a lot of people have shiny object syndrome. There's like a flavor of the month that gets really popular on the internet, and all the influencers are talking about it. My people are desperate to feel better, so they're like, oh my gosh, the CMOS is this thing that's incredible and has all these minerals, and they're saying that it's going to like make me feel amazing and resolve all my health issues. And but they don't, they just, it's just total shiny object syndrome. And there's so much good stuff out there. You could easily spend $1,000 a month and take 30 pills a day and chasing health, and you don't have to do that, although there's all these resources out there. And so I'm excited for you to share what you know about homeopathic, herbal medicine, integrative medicine, and what that can do for people who are in the thick of disease symptoms and want to feel better.
And to your point, good points. Thank you very much. I've learned a couple things over the years and one thing that's really important and it keeps always ringing true is we don't all fit in the same box.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as we try to fit into the same box, our desperation, our frustration, and our impatience usually lead us to that shiny thing of the day, of the week, of the month. And we think to ourselves, well, it's working for them. It's got to work for me. Little side note, I have been waiting on three sets of identical twins for probably close to 40 years. I've known them for a long time. I've waited on them. I mean, we're talking identical twins. Now they're
Mm-hmm.
all in their 60s and older. And although you look at them and you say, yeah, they're definitely identical twins. But what I have learned from this little experiment that I just call waiting on three sets of great friends is that although they're identical genetically, their life stories were completely different and they followed different paths and they made different choices. So I may sit down with both of them to do a consult, like an update once a year, and their protocols are completely different because they are different people. They have made different choices. So just because you think that someone's doing something and that you can respond to it, there's a good chance you may not. And the
Yeah.
only way to get that clarity and the only way to make a good choice is to go somewhere where you can have a conversation because that gives you clarity on how you choose. You can't just eeny, meeny, miny, mo. And I know we do it out of desperation and frustration, and I get it. Guilty as charged. But we have to remember that today's health food stores have people that are extremely passionate, and some of them have been in the industry as long as I have. So they bring a lot to the table. And if you go to these places and you utilize the knowledge that's there, you can actually make better, wiser choices because you may go in with an idea of something you heard on a social media and you're like, I've got my mindset. That's what I want. That's what I want. You go in and you ask questions and you're like, I don't want that. That's nothing to do with what I'm thinking because you heard
Yeah.
what someone said. And I've been really happy with what social media has done for spreading the good word and getting people to look at things like mental health and overall body wellness and stuff. That's been fantastic. But the problem is sometimes they're bringing information that one may not be true, two may be intensified and maybe exaggerated a little bit, and three maybe giving the promise that it's going to work for everybody the same and it doesn't. It's just like medicine. People don't realize there's hundreds of different kinds of blood pressure medicine. But a lot of doctors, because they're so overwhelmed, and so many of my friends are doctors, and they have no time with their patients, like an egg timer, 3 minutes and you're on to the next one. And they got to clear their slate, wipe off the chalkboard, and start over in the next door. And what happens is the salesman will come around and they'll say, this is the newest blood pressure medicine. And they're like, oh, it sounds good. So then everybody gets that. But you know what? It doesn't work the same way for everybody. Somebody may traditionally have something they've been using for 20 years that works much better. It comes down to the communication and personalizing it. And what you do here is by bringing great information, giving people tools, it's priceless, because
Yeah.
people can take this information and you give them hope and you give them possibility. And that's one of the wonderful things about podcasts like yours is you supply people with, the idea that they can make a change. They're going to have to do their homework, but they still can make a change. And you being able to give them information to start them on their journey. I mean, there's nothing better than that. So thank you for what you do.
Thank you. It's my passion and my goal is to give hope and a strategic way to move forward in a realistic way. And that's why I'm so excited to talk to you because, you know, there's so much information on all sides. Oh, use this. Oh, this product killed somebody. Oh, use this. Oh, this person caused long-term damage. Oh, this isn't what it says it is. This has zero of what it says on the label. And it gets disheartening
Yes.
and overwhelming, and people don't know where to go or what to do. And I love what we were talking about because I was trying to wrap my head around all that you know and all that you can share. And we were talking about like where do people begin when it comes to starting to implement some herbal protocols or a new mushroom or plant that has come to the market that finally we're doing some great research around the world, and great things are coming to light on all these products. And but before jumping on the bandwagon, people need to know where to begin to make sure it's a good fit for them. So let's talk about that because I know you're super passionate about that. That's why you teach. That's why you do what you do.
Mhm. I think number one, the first thing we have to do is everybody needs to get a physical once a year, a check and balance, if you will, and get a full blood profile down because the blood in the inside that you don't get to see every day can actually give you a roadmap of where you've been, where you are, and where you might be heading, and then be able to get a copy of that. So year to year, you can compare where you were and where you are now. That lets you know if you're on the right track. Number two, choose a doctor that's not set into only pharmaceutical means. Find a doctor that has opened the door either because of physical or personal or associates that have made a change using natural alternatives, or a DO or somebody that's more herbally minded,
Mm-hmm.
because you do need to be able to represent all these different alternatives that are available to you. And if you're locked into only someone that works pharmaceutically, you could be missing the boat for great success with things that have little to no side effects that may do even better than what the medications are you're getting prescribed. So have that conversation. And, it's like I tell people all the time, if you are with a doctor who is so set in their ways and they're not expanding their own ideas and taking into consideration other things that are doing well around the world, that they're actually the first place people go, not the drugstore. They go the other route first. If you have somebody that's locked into that, then you need to find another doctor.
Yeah.
That's why we have that choice with most of our medical plans. You will find one that works better for you. You don't want a plumber that can't fix a leak. You want a doctor that can work with you and that you do not have to, because when I first started, people never told their doctors they were taking vitamins. They kept it completely silent.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't talk about it because they didn't want to get yelled at by their doctor, the doctor telling them they're wasting their time and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I used to wait on doctors at the back door of health food stores that would come after hours because they didn't want their colleagues to see them shopping in the store.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of them knew there was a lot of validity to this. Some have not learned it yet, but
Yeah.
plenty have. You just need to search it out a little bit. But that's step number one. Number two, with the availability of awesome podcasts today, there are amazing doctors, there's amazing herbalists, there's amazing master herbalists, there's amazing naturopaths that are out there who are having podcasts that are geared to giving us all the tools we need to make better decisions. Sometimes that works more effectively than reading a book
Mm-hmm.
because
Reading a
sometimes
study
yeah.
because
Oh,
this.
that's tough. I do it all the time, and you have to have a passion for that, or
Well, you have to have
forget it.
passion, but also be able to know conflicts of interest and
Hmm.
was the study set up properly?
Hmm.
I feel like when you are not in the thick of it, you trust that if it's in an academic journal, it was done correctly and there were no
Hmm.
conflicts of interest. And that's just not the state of research today.
Yeah.
Though I do love reading studies. I mostly read we were talking about like the conclusions, the cliff notes, but there's a certain mindset you have to go into it and you have to read a lot of different ones about the same thing to kind of find the commonality in all of them. And a lot of people don't have the time to do that. We're working, my husband, he's gone from the house from 7:30 at night until, or 7:30 in the morning until 5:30, 6 o'clock, 6:30 at night, and then on the week, and then we have 4 kids and on the weekends we have sports and like, people are busy. They don't
Yep.
have the time to be able to do the research required. And that's where things like podcasts and, but also what you were talking about also was going into the health food store and talking to the people in the supplement aisle. I love one of the health food stores here is Sprouts and Natural Grocers. And you just go there, and the people there get trainings all the time, and they can answer a lot of your questions. They are not master herbalists. They can't make recommend, but they can. If I come in and ask, hey, I'm dealing with these symptoms, what section or what are my options for helping to resolve these symptoms, right? Like I have a
Yep.
cold, I have a sore throat. There's this really nasty throat coat spray. It's all herbs, super gross. But if my throat's sore, if I get little spots, I start spraying it and it's gone within, 24, 36 hours and it doesn't
Yep.
spread. I've used it on my kids alongside antibiotics for strep, and just because I don't mess with strep. But, even with the sore throat, like let's just spray it. And then in 2 minutes, you can have a drink. And it works and it's effective. And, a neti pop for, for sinus issues. And There's so many options. And it was so funny because I had a regular doctor, my GYN, because you used to go to them annually back in the day. And I told him how I had gone to the emergency room or urgent care every 3 months to get antibiotics for a sinus infection. He's like, most of those are fungal. You can just do an neti pot with a drop of oregano oil in it and it will resolve it. And it worked. And I haven't had a sinus infection. I think it was 10 years before I had a sinus infection. And it was
Mhm.
during COVID, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, and that was my introduction into alternative medicine and herbs and nourishing your body that way. And then pharmaceuticals became an absolute last resort, and they still are. I've rarely needed them in the last couple of years. I think it was during COVID with all the stress and everything. The immune system kind of crashed, and I got sick like twice in a year. But that was very, very not my norm. But growing up, it was. I was a severe asthmatic, and I got sick all the time until I was about 12, and so to go into adulthood and not have that problem was really cool. But again, it was a very slow process, but then when you have chronic illness and we're talking about that desperation to feel better, that's where we can kind of get ourselves into trouble.
Yeah.
Right. And so for you, along with like podcasts and things, like if they hear about a product or they hear about, they see some headline or some reel on social media and they're like, I wonder if that's for me. Where would you tell them to go?
I probably would research it, pull it up on the internet, pull it up on the company, go to the company website, get their information, print it, and then take it in with you into the health food store and have that one-on-one conversation. Because there's no charge for that, and they love to talk and they love to give you the information. That would be a great place to start. One thing that's changed is 40 some odd years ago, people did not start taking vitamins till they were in like their 60s.
Mm-hmm.
They were much older. These people were brought up on real food, food, not food stuff that we have today. And they were brought up with great nutrition. The soil was healthier then, organic was in place, the crops were healthier, the ground was healthier. Where today I'm talking with 20 and 30-year-olds with conditions of their health that used to affect people over 60.
Yeah.
Now we've got bone problems, joint problems, heart problems, diabetes. We've got muscle and ligament, digestive problems in 20 and 30s. So we have to be able to point the finger and say that a lot of this is self-induced. And a lot of it is just going to be retraining our choices. And that is a huge thing as well. It's not about just popping a pill. The pills are there, the capsules are there, the teas are there, the tinctures are there. And when you have a conversation, you can narrow that down. But you still got to do your homework. Before you build the walls of the house, you got to build the foundation, which means choose a diet that's healthy that you can stick to. People ask all the time, I'm sick all the time. Eat a Mediterranean diet. A Mediterranean diet is an anti-inflammatory diet. It's easy to eat. It's easy to follow. You'll be healthier and feel better than you have in a long time, no matter where you are or unhealthy you are right now. Choose a Mediterranean diet. Number two, drink your water.
Yeah.
8 to 10 glasses every single day. Get the rest that you need. Walk, move, be active. Don't be sedentary. The next one is stay away from negative people. If you've got nothing but negative people in your life, you need to kick them to the curb and get some positive people that lift you, support you, and bring you up to where they're and cheer you on the sidelines. Because if it's nothing but negative, it's because it's coming from their lives, and that's too bad. It's sad. Hopefully they won't always be there, but you don't need to stay with that invitation. You can leave. You can say, no, I'm not coming. And the next thing is make sure that you're making decisions based on what you need today, but also what you need next week, next month, next year. What can I do now that's going to prepare me? It's kind of like taking your minerals now so your bones are healthy down the road. Taking things for your immune system so that when things come up down the road, or God forbid we have another pandemic and your immune system is now stronger because of what you're doing now, you're going to be better for that. So there's a lot of preparatory work to do. That's how you build the foundation. Then you put the walls up. You have to have
Yeah.
something to attach to. And there's so much information out there today. The problem is there's so much misinformation that we have to research the research. but find people that are knowledgeable that you can go to, that you can chat with. There's naturopaths in every single town. There's DOs. There's people that are very nutritionally oriented. There's many of them that'll just do consultations. Keep
Hmm.
an eye on your health food stores. A lot of times naturopaths come to the stores and they'll do a sit down consultation with you. You can learn more in 15 minutes with a naturopath asking the right questions and walk out of there with like, I can't believe I was finally heading in the wrong direction completely. No wonder I'm not seeing anything. You got to ask. And it
Yeah.
comes down to that because it's all about education and asking questions and realizing that all of us, we don't know it all. We need to go to the people that can give us the tools so that we can become better informed.
I love that. Absolutely. I'm a big fan of taking your health into your hands. I'm what they call a difficult patient because I ask all kinds of questions. And I'm not a difficult patient in the integrative world. I'm a difficult patient in the allopathic world because I want to know what the medication is, what are the side effects, are there, what are all the other options? Is there something less invasive we can do first? And they don't like when you ask those questions. But when it comes to your health, you have to be your own advocate.
Mhm.
And the natural world is amazing, and you've helped create all the so many of the lines that are available today that are third party tested and high quality. I think the problem also comes when things get popular and then a bunch of knockoffs come to the line, and and stuff made and other predatory people get involved. And I am sure that you have had to battle that in your years with the herbal lines and the health food lines and all of that you've been on. And it's like, how getting the education, and nobody thinks about going to the local health food store and asking questions. I think schools today have trained my generation and generations after that, don't think for yourself. You don't know everything. You have to trust the experts. And it's this complete outsourcing of thinking and outsourcing of ownership of your life. And I love that you talk about, like, hey, you play a huge role in this. I mean, no matter what herb, what pill, what probiotic, it can only do 10 to 20% of your health outcomes, or the other 80% is what you talked about. And I talk about it every single week on this podcast is, you got to get the foundations down there, and there's no magic pill. Like you said, that you have to have something to build on. You have to have a solid
Mhm.
foundation. But let's say somebody's there
Yep.
and, it got them some of the way there, but their health is still a major struggle. You're a naturopathic doctor and a
Mhm.
master herbalist. And here in Arizona, we have a naturopathic school, and there's like 11 states that have naturopathic schools, and they have green lights. Like they're basically MDs. They're naturopathic medical doctors. They're your PCP. They can do all the PCP stuff, really. They can run the labs, they can do all of that. But there's still, I find, not in everyone, but there's still a pill for every ill, like a pill, a pharmaceutical for every symptom, right? And so people will come to me on $500-600 a month of supplements. They're nauseous, they don't feel good, and they're still, the foundation's not even there. So, what I love and what I find that you're preaching and screaming from the rooftops, shouting from the rooftops, is like, hey, you got to own it, and then talk to people and learn. And that's a very slow process, really.
It is a slow process, but we live in it's to your point, we live in a world where we're expecting everything to be quick
Hmm.
and we want that resolution. We want that instant satisfaction, and I don't blame people for that,
Right.
You know, when people start thinking about, you can take an antibiotic and it may work really well by the third or fourth day. That's great. But is it doing anything to get you healthier so it doesn't happen again? No.
Yeah.
Most of the medicines that we have today, because we don't have a healthcare system, we have a sick care system.
Yep.
And what we have in this country are pharmaceutical drugs. Don't get me wrong, they have their place. I have many friends that are alive on this planet because of
Same.
pharmaceutical medication,
Yep.
and I give them the kudos that they deserve. Does it mean we all need to go that way? No. There's a lot of trains on before you get to the caboose. The caboose is the pharmaceuticals. There's a lot of trains on that and cars on that train that you can try different things, acupuncture, homeopathic, you could try all these different things. You may find something that is absolutely incredible for you. But the thing is, you have to it's the patience thing. It's just so difficult for people to realize that good things do take time.
Yeah.
And there's so much more knowledge today than there was when I started. When I started, there was no Google. There was no search engine. There was no cell phones. There was no computers, no laptops, no podcast. You couldn't, there was about 8 authors that were there. I had to go to the library every night to read research books just to get information that I could do my radio shows with and refer to those 8 to 10 authors that were reputable at that time. And if you got there too late, the research books, you couldn't check them out. You had to use them there. So if you didn't get there in time, you didn't get information. And the next day, that show was kind of light for information, so there was a lot of work. Today, people have so much information. The health food stores of the early 80s, they didn't have hardly anything. We had no blends. We had no formulas. You couldn't walk in and say, give me a joint formula. They didn't have that. An eye formula. No, we didn't have that. Vitamin D was thought it was toxic back then. Nobody talked about fish oils. It was on the bottom shelf next to the vitamin D. People didn't talk about it. They didn't. Probiotics were called acidophilus back then. They would take it for 7 days after an antibiotic and put it in the refrigerator, and nobody ever took it again. They didn't know it was good for the gut. They knew it was good not to get a yeast infection. So there's so much more knowledge today, but having that much knowledge is kind of like walking in quicksand because, in any direction you go, if you don't ask the right questions, you're going to sink. So you need to make sure that you're definitely reaching out. And just like in Arizona and other states, if there are naturopaths out there, go do a consultation. Pay the money, even if you can do it out of your pocket, go have a sit-down consultation and lay out the foundation for your upcoming journey. And remember to give yourself 6 months to see how things are working. That means a diet, an exercise program, the water, better night's rest, positivity. 6 months that you can definitely afford to give yourself to really make a change. Because if you want it sooner than that, chances are you're not going to get it. And if you do, just be happy that it came early. So I tell people all the time, you can really make a difference, but have that patience in there, and allow yourself, because if you ask yourself right now, and I tell people to do this all the time, have you always treated yourself good? No. Do you treat yourself with the respect that you're due? No. Do you care about all the things, or do you just want the changes without doing the work? That's kind of the thing. And I mean, I'll have people stand up and sit down as we're asking the questions, and there may be 2 people out of 5,000 people in an audience that are like, nope, I've been doing it right. I've never let down. They're rare.
Yeah.
Because the rest of us, we sit down because we give up too quickly. And I saw something the other day. It was a meme. It was on one of the social media. It said, if you had started 10 years ago, you'd be really in a great place today.
Yeah.
And I think that that's true.
It is true. And the other thing I love is it's never too late. I remember there's some wonderful older Black lady who started on weight training in her 70s. And, I think she's going into her 90s and she's still doing fitness competitions, and the lady's buff, and it's like she went from frail and in a disease state to thriving and still independent and taking care of herself. And it's like, it's never too late. But if you're going to start now. Start with the basics, and then understand the role that like teas and tinctures and all that stuff plays. Like there's everyday stuff that just supports your health. There's stuff you can take to help with your allergies. There's stuff you can take to help you sleep and relax if you're stressed out. And then there's stuff when you get a cold and when you get the flu, like osteo. I don't know how to say the whole word. Osteo.
Silicocinium.
That, right? I call it osteo.
That took me years to learn how to say that one.
And it's in Walmart now. It used to only be at health food stores. You couldn't get it on Amazon. You couldn't get it anywhere. And it's these little sugar pills that have these things in them. But what they found is it cuts the flu symptoms and faster than Tamiflu. But you have to take it 3 times a day for 10 days at the start of symptoms. You can't wait till you're full blown sick. And I think that people are so used to being reactionary that they're not willing to say, oh, I'm starting to feel under the weather. I better start taking care of myself. And so when you get to this point where like, okay, well, I'm going to try the Osteo over the Tamiflu because it works better, scientifically proven to work better. It's in every major store, you can Target, Walmart, Walgreens, it's all there. And then you start there. And like me, I started with the neti pot and my sinus infections. And then I think I moved to colloidal silver. And then it was olive leaf extract. And like, I'm like trying to think of the progression. I remember it pretty vividly. And it just kind of became this domino effect of like learning. And I think people aren't people want to be experts right away, and
Yeah.
people don't want to take the time to do things slowly. And I think that that's the detriment that people, especially in the chronic illness world, when you're sick and desperate, like that's the piece that's missing, because slow and steady wins the race. And it took you, I meet people in their 50s that are, they were chugging along, and then they come into a huge health crisis. And it's like they want to feel better by Friday. They want to feel better yesterday. Take the antibiotics for 10 days, you start feeling better after 24 hours type of thing. And it's like it doesn't work that way when your body's crying out for help so loudly.
No.
And it's better to be more targeted in your approach
Hmm.
and than it is to just try something for a week and then, well, this didn't work, so now I'm going to move on to this, and that didn't work. And it's like you never give it a chance to, just like pharmaceuticals, like a lot of times the chronic stuff you have to take for 4 to 6 weeks before you will notice any sort of difference.
Yeah.
It's the same with herbs and anything that's more potent than food, right? Like there's some really powerful stuff out there, but you have to be willing to give it a chance to work.
Very true. And the biggest problem I have, and the biggest thing that's always driven me the craziness, is when someone is very impatient. If they choose a product that they just grabbed off a shelf, chances are they picked the wrong one. They're not going to see the results they want because it's probably not even for what they wanted to do. So they do it for 2 days or 3 days. And then rather than just saying this doesn't work, I'm going to try something else, they say nothing in this industry works. So they lose the chance of really having a very healthy life if they had taken an extra 5 minutes and had a conversation and chose wisely.
Yeah.
Now, some of us, we know that sometimes we'll grab something and try it, but we're also kind of smart enough to understand that we may go back and say, you know what? My friends were using this and I tried it and I wanted it for this. It's not doing it. Is there something that is better for what I'm trying to do? Because this is working for them, what they're doing, and I tried it, not for me. That's where that conversation takes a turn. And they're like, you're not even in the right direction. We need to look at things like this, and this, because this is what the category that you want to look at for the thing that you're trying to achieve. And you're thinking, they're opposite sides of the store. I would have never even thought to come over here. But that's where those conversations become priceless. And
Yeah.
that's where those conversations can be life changing. So it's all about the education. It's all about realizing that you're worth it. And you need to be able to do things that make a change. And you need to take the time. I don't care how busy you are, you've got extra time to stop by a health food store and ask some questions. You think you're worth it. You should think you are. And
Yeah.
the thing is, and then you can sit back and say, I am so glad that I did that. I have not felt this good in years. And I was going to say that I didn't have time.
Yeah. The other roadblock that people have is when you go to a health food store, the supplements are more expensive than the stuff at Costco and Walmart.
Sure.
People don't want to spend money on their health, even though they're spending thousands of dollars in copays and MRIs and CT scans and blood work. I mean, I've gotten blood work. I mean, insurance covered it for me, but if I had had to pay it out of pocket, it would have been 3 grand and ended up being like 150. But it was necessary because now I take a $40 a month bioidentical hormone replacement therapy and a $10 thyroid NP. And it took 9 months and I finally feel like myself again. It
There
took
you
nine
go.
months,
Yep.
to get the dose right and to get everything built up in my system and to find where my body's happy place is. And I felt better instantly, but I didn't still feel like myself for 9 months. It had to be targeted, it had to be guided. I couldn't do it
Yep.
all by myself,
Nope.
and a lot of people don't. What One of the jokes that we do in the medical or in the integrative world is we say that we're a pyramid. The upfront cost is more expensive. You have to pay, the 350 for the consult. You have to pay the $700 for the labs, and then the 250 for the follow-up. But after that, you're on a really good path. And we work ourselves out of a job. You come once a year for your blood work. And maybe if you're sick, you come in for an IV or something to kind of help,
Hmm.
or hey, I'm having these symptoms. Put me in the right
Hmm.
direction. What can I buy? And that's about it. Where in the allopathic world, it starts small. Your copay is $25, but then your copay becomes $75. And then the things get more and more expensive because the problems never get resolved. So it's an upside down pyramid. It gets more expensive over time. I think the insurance-based model has really twisted the way people view investing in their health,
True.
because the high quality supplements that are third party tested, that are verified to have what they have, the compounds that they say they have, that get the results that the herb is supposed to give, is going to cost $20-$30 more than something that's not.
Yep.
In a health food store, the people are educated on the different brands, and they're able to tell you the difference between the one that's $20 and the one that's $50. And I wouldn't say expensive is always better, but at least understanding the dosages and the compounds that are included and all of that, and again, getting that this is good for you, or no, for those symptoms that's not going to do anything for you.
It's funny. I did a lecture just a couple of months ago, and it was a very, very big lecture. And, I love to ask questions of the audience, and I'll say, how many of you think that vitamins are too expensive? And they all raise their hand. I said, okay. I said, how many of you cut corners and get things at Sam's Club and Costco and the drugstore and Walgreens and CVS and the bargain bin and the 99 cents basket? And a lot of people raised their hand. And I said, you do that because it's cheaper. And they're like, yeah. I said, do you think it's as good? Then it got really quiet. I said, so quality is important to you. And they're like, yeah. I said, but you're not willing to pay for quality to make a change. And you kind of see them hemming and hawing. I said, how many of you have iPhones? And they all almost everybody raised their hand. I said, so you're willing to pay $1,000, $1,100, $1,200, $1,300 for an iPhone because you want the best phone that you can get. And you don't want to do a Droid. You want an iPhone because you want to say you have an iPhone and you want to have all that stuff. I said, so you get the best of the best in your phone and your technology. And when you want a car, you don't buy the broken down one. You buy the newest model that you can afford because you want something that's new and it looks good and everything else. I said, but when it comes to your health and well-being, you will cut the corners on there, knowing that this is the fuel, the healing, the power for the body to correct imbalances and deficiencies that will allow you to be able to use that phone and drive that car and able to deal with the things you come in contact with, but you'll cut corners in that area. And it was like everybody's head went down, and it was a huge audience. And I said, you know what? You're in the norm. This is the majority of what people do. I said, moving forward, realize the best thing you can do is get the best you can and the best you can afford, which
Mm-hmm.
means going someplace where you can choose from the best of the best in a price category that works for you. It's like having dogs. I have 7 dogs and a huge amount of horses on my ranch. So the thing is, I buy the best dog food that fits my budget. And then I dress it up from there: greens, coconut oil, probiotics, and all that stuff. But I tell people, buy the best one you can afford. Don't buy the cheap stuff just because it's pressed nuggets of nothing. Your dogs are only as healthy as you want them to be, and you're only as healthy as you allow yourselves to be.
Yeah.
And I said, because if you don't lay the foundation now, you're going to be wishing you had a few years down the road, and you're going to stand back and say, I should have done that. I could have done that. I wish I would have done that.
Mm-hmm.
Coulda, shoulda, wouldas are not a place to go. So I learned very young from my grandmother. She used to tell me all the time, because she was an herbalist. She used to say, take the time to do the best you can do for yourself. Whatever you can afford that allows you a better choice. If you can make it work financially, do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always stuck with that because that's way back, because I'm old. So that was way, 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 way back in the 70s. And I learned from that, and I've never deviated because of the fact that it does make sense to make sure that you're doing the best you can. And then you add the patience into it, and then you add the asking questions into it, and then you do the simple things like you eat better and you get a better night's rest and you drink water than soda, and you don't spend $15 every morning at Starbucks on a gigantic muffin and a liquid donut coffee drink.
Yeah.
You have a cup of coffee at home. Coffee's good for you unless you make it taste like a liquid donut, and then it's basically just sugar. So make better choices. You'd be surprised that if you skip your morning stop at the coffee place once a week, you'll have enough money to buy the best vitamins you can use.
Yeah. And what I like that you said about that. So because of my thyroid taking a dump after my daughter was born, my third
Mm-hmm.
daughter was born, I've invested in a multivitamin that has more of the specific nutrients needed to convert T4 to T3 and to support those processes. And it's probably $25 more than the prenatal I was taking.
Mm-hmm.
But knowing that my body is getting what it needs to be able to convert the hormones that I'm taking appropriately so that
Hmm.
I feel better, like that's worth everything to me. Again, it took 9 months for me to feel like myself again, but like I don't think I would be here if I wasn't supporting my body properly. And it's like I did the research. I looked up the doctor. I looked up his website. I looked up why he put certain nutrients in. I validated it with research. I looked at what else was available on the market and I was like, this one's the best. It has the amounts that I need. I'm not going to have to spend money on anything else, except for maybe extra selenium and iodine is what I did per my doctor's recommendations. And it's like, here I am. Right.
Yeah,
And it's like, okay, I'm okay spending $25 more a month so that I can feel like this,
it's fantastic.
and it also, versus taking a multi plus an additional ADK drop, plus an additional this, plus an additional that, and like it's all wrapped up and I only have to do a couple extra. And it's like, that actually saves me money and energy and time and quality of life. And people just, I don't understand why we're willing to put apple juice in our fuel tank, but premium, the proper fuel in our car so it runs properly and the best oil our car will allow us to put in without burning it out. And
Self-care is not selfish.
yeah. And it's
You know,
not bubble baths and candles, it's vitamins and minerals and testing. I mean, bubble baths are great, but that's not self-care. Self-care is how you take care of yourself every single day. And I love what I love about this. So I do have a question, and
okay.
we still have time, so we're good.
Okay.
But how does somebody know if a product is good or if it's gimmick? Are you able to answer that question?
Yeah, I think I can. I think that good and successful and quality are measured differently for everybody.
Okay.
I think if a product is inexpensive, but it works for you and makes a difference, then it's a successful product. If you try something and it costs a lot of money, but it's not quite the fit for you, it doesn't mean that it's a lack of quality. It just means that it may not be for you. And that's where those questions and things come in. But I think I've learned my best lessons when I've done my basic studies. I don't go to what people say. I will go to the web page, and if they have a little link that shows me studies on the product, I'll read it. And if I still feel good about it, I'll go try the product. Does it mean it's for me? No. Does it mean that it could possibly work for me? Yeah. And I feel comfortable giving it a try because it checked the boxes that put me into the category of wanting to give it a shot. Have I tried things over the years that were really good, that worked for many other people, and they had the quality and the testing? But for me, I was like, I didn't really see it. Yes, so many of them over the years because I've tried so many products because I've worked with so many companies. And you can listen to everybody touting the products, which is fine. But the true test is whether it works for you.
Ooh, I like
And that
that.
might be a little trial and error on your side. But I think that's the best way to do it because we're all different and we all respond differently. But taking the time to try something and know that you're worth it. You're worth that try. And maybe you might not be able to go out to eat twice
Oh,
that week because you put that money into a supplement.
yes, but my
That's okay.
question is, what separates it from the stuff in the dollar bin,
Uh-huh.
from the stuff that and the lines and stuff that we're talking about? So I think
Quality,
that that's the
quality, and yeah, go
that's
ahead.
my question is, how do people go, why is the 99-cent bin not okay versus the $30 product for the same name?
I'll give you an example. When I started in the industry, we were natural, obviously, or as natural as we could be in the early 80s. The number one pharmaceutical vitamin was Theragram M. And people didn't know what was in it. They just know that their doctor said to take it. Seeing they were saying nothing else but Theragram M. So we blew up the label and we put it on the counter for people to read it. It was sugar and shellac, number 5 red dye, number 3 red dye. And it was like 10 ingredients before you got to vitamin A. So all the synthetics were there. There's still a lot of pharmaceutical products that are made with garbage nutrients.
Yeah.
You're not getting quality. You're not getting integrity. I tell people to read the labels. One of the biggest culprits in our industry that I've had a hard time with for the longest time are people that do proprietary blend labels.
Mm-hmm.
A proprietary blend label looks wonderful. You turn it over, you have a paragraph on the back and a list of all these things that are in there. And next to it, it'll say 1,500 milligram proprietary blend. Okay. That means that everything's in there totals up to 1,500 milligrams, but you have no idea of what is of every dosage of each one. That to me is a problem.
Hmm.
because I don't think you're getting transparency and quality. You see that a lot on a
Yeah.
lot of the products that are out there. You also see a lot of additives. When you get to the bottom of the ingredients, this is the problem I have with some of those. And that's why they're cheaper, because they're more chemical based. Now, are there really good lines today that are happen to be sold in drugstores and stuff like that? Yes. I mean, you can see really good lines. You can see Ancient and Garden of Life and all those other companies. They're there. They're being represented. But sometimes when you look at the store brand, the drugstore brand, and you get to the bottom, you see all the dyes, all the propofols, all the magnesium stearates, all the carrageenans, all that kind of stuff. It comes down to what's in it. Just read the label. That will tell you right there. If you can't pronounce it, there's a good chance it's a chemical. And if you're looking at the natural label, that's what we're paying for. We're paying for the quality. We're paying for the purity and the transparency, because the other stuff, it looks like a good deal. It's not,
Yeah.
because you're not going to be able to make a change with something that's more synthetic based that your body may not be able to recognize.
Yes. And that's like, so, I have a 1.5 year old, and then I have my oldest is going to be 17 this week.
Wow.
Yeah, there's quite the spread. And then starting over, it's kind of brought to the forefront like folate versus folic acid,
Mhm.
right? And which type of, best forms of omega-3 fatty acids, for brain development. And what it brings to me is like all the stuff that we need in utero, we still need throughout our lives, like choline. Our bodies don't know what to do with synthetic forms of it,
Mhm.
straight up. But when there's this inherent trust that what's on the shelf has gone through rigorous testing,
Oh, so true.
verification, and unfortunately, that's not the case, right? And a lot of people don't even know that carrageenan is something you shouldn't eat or you shouldn't be consuming. They don't even recognize that something with bright colors is just poison in a pill. They really take advantage of that inherent trust and abuse it. Where what I think is so great about the lines, the companies that are coming out with all these amazing products, is that they want to give you transparency because their passion is the fact that you've had the wool pulled over your eyes.
Yeah.
And I think that, as people are looking at all of these, and, there's so many great brands out there. There really
Mhm.
are. And this, little battle of, oh, I only do designs for health over, or I only do metagenics, or I only do Gaia, or I only do, there's a lot of different great, and that's one of the things I love about the podcast is I'm learning about all these amazing products out there, all these different probiotic strains for, there's people developing probiotic products specifically for people struggling with depression and anxiety, with the strains that have those anti-anxiety effects, and those strains that have been shown to help with dopamine and serotonin production. And it's like, we like, really, there's this, like, that's amazing, right? And I think this kind of like the snooty, oh, I only do this brand because this brand's the best. It's like, no, you just trust that one because you've done the most research on that one. And that's okay,
Mhm.
but it's the transparency is really what I think people need to be looking for, because that's where they're going to get the most bang for their buck.
And I've learned over the years that not any one company makes everything.
Yeah.
I mean, you see my kitchen counter. First of all, it's frightening because I take so much stuff. But when you get this old, you don't want to stop taking anything because then body parts fall off. But I know that there's companies that make the best methyl B. There's companies that make the best omega 3s. There's companies that I know make the best vitamin Ds. So I have a plethora, a buffet of companies because I can't get everything I need the way I need it made from one company. They just don't do it. Everybody has their
Yeah.
strengths.
And
So
that's what
yeah.
I'm not affiliated with any one company because I don't ever want to feel obligated to say this is the only one that you should take
Mhm.
ever. Like and like that, in a way, it kind of has hurt my business because I could make so much money with commercials and with things like that. But it's like, I'm not married to any one brand or product because everybody has the thing that they make the best of, and everything else it's fine, but I just don't believe in being married to any one product or any one line for that exact reason.
And I was blessed to be able to put a lot of these lines on shelves.
Yeah.
And I was with them for every release that they were there, and I was able to bring out the information, give people the information so they could make up their own minds and say, look, Go to the store, check it out. I said, I know this company. I've done 50 shows with them. This is their newest kind of platform or their newest division or their newest branch on their tree. I said, but check them out. You know that you like these other things from them. Good chance you'll like this, but only you can decide. I want to give them the tools like you do. You give
Yeah.
them the tools, let them make up their own mind. But it's really nice to let them know that they do have tools.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing is what are the tools available? And that's my biggest thing is bringing that to the table because there's so many options out there. And, not one is going to work for everybody, but just knowing what your options are and trying them out is my passion because navigating the medical world, allopathic, integrative, holistic, homeopathic, there's just so much out there and it's completely and totally overwhelming, but people don't even know what questions to ask.
I know.
And so that's what I want to bring. And so I'm so grateful for you taking time away from your busy schedule of teaching and your own podcast to come onto mine and to talk to my people and my tribe and to let them know the resources available. I'm just so grateful. If people wanted to reach out to you or go to one of your events that you're speaking at, how do they connect with you?
It's really just go to my webpage. That's probably the easiest thing. It's just drjeffreyburke.com. To make it easy, my mother's 90. She turned 90 last week.
Oh,
so
congratulations.
she made me make things easy. So when you go to my webpage, if you tap on this logo, which is my Honest Health logo, it'll take you to a platform where you can listen to the audio almost everywhere. And then I also have a YouTube logo. If you go there, you can watch the interviews. Because sometimes, for me, it's been kind of fun to be able to have the camaraderie and the back and forth that for 40 some years, I was doing it on a phone.
Yeah.
But now I get to see the person and interact. And, it just makes a much more effective and more passionate delivery of information, which I love. And so that's easy, drjeffreyburke.com. And of course, Kokora, that's the company I'm with now, which is the regenerative company out of Costa Rica, where we're growing all of our herbs, certified organic, certified regenerative.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I'm working with Rick Scalzo. Many of you know Gaia. He had Gaia for many, many years, 30 years. And now this is his new baby, the Kokora. So it was the hot thing in the 80s was organic. Now the thing out of necessity is regenerative.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we are now. But I want to thank you because, there's nothing better than having youth coming up behind us and bringing their knowledge, but bringing your passion. I'm seeing the same passion I had back then when I was your age as well. So because we're not all going to be here forever, we need people behind us that are continuing the journey. So a big thank to you for what you're doing and for having the passion and for just continuing the journey. It's a wonderful thing. It's priceless.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
It was such an honor to talk with Dr. Burke today. I mean, with all that knowledge, he really puts it in a way that's accessible. Go to your local health food store, ask some questions to get directed to the right place. But before that, your body needs to be in a place where the herbs can actually do their job. You need a solid foundation. While that sounds easy enough, it's really easier said than done. We all try to eat healthy, but I can tell you most people need a few tweaks to really be nourishing themselves well. Guidance is really helpful. And this is where my online coaching program, the Therapeutic Food Framework, comes in. I designed it to guide you in how to eat in the most nutrient-dense, anti-inflammatory way possible with delicious foods with simple ingredients that won't break the bank. My meal plans show you what it looks like to eat in this way, while I also give you expert tips on saving money, all the shortcuts available so you aren't living in the kitchen, how to travel, plus how to reduce toxins in your life easily, stress management techniques, and improve your quality of sleep. It's all wrapped up in a pretty online bow for you. Plus, you get coaching sessions with me to help with any roadblocks that may come up for your individual situation. I have links in the show notes for you. You can go and learn more about it. Let's get you that solid foundation so the herbal and pharmaceutical protocols you need can do their job effectively.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. If you found this episode helpful, would you do me a favor and help others find it by leaving a review, sharing a screenshot on social media, or sharing the link with a friend? By you sharing what you've learned, others are able to find this podcast and join our community. Be sure to check out my website, www.roadtolivinghole.com, for over 160 delicious recipes, a variety of meal plans, and a blog packed full of even more healthy living tips. If you'd like to learn more about how to work with me as your coach, you can schedule a free consult through www.roadtolivinghole.com/health-coaching/. Until next time, friend. Bye.